Gothic fashion is the cool girl trend to try for fall. Gothic revival is winter's coolest trend. Goth is back, but this time it's softer, more chic, and easier to wear. Darker makeup looks are trending again, and so is misunderstanding the goth subculture. Hi my fellow mortals and welcome to a new video. So I'm sorry that I haven't uploaded a lot lately. I just came back from my surgery rotation or surgery internship for medical school, and as you can imagine, that took a lot of time. I had to work pretty long days and I had to study a lot, so that is why I haven't been really active lately, but I'm back. So before we start this video, I want to ask you guys to please take a look at my Instagram page. Also join my Discord server, it's a really lovely community and I really hope to see you in there. And I also want to say a huge thanks to the members on my channel for supporting me. So today I wanted to talk about the media making goth some kind of trend again, and with that also just completely misunderstanding the goth subculture, spreading misinformation, and even using goth to sell products. With the increasing popularity of films and series like Wednesday, Nosferatu, and now Frankenstein, which by the way I really did love to watch, the media have become interested in goth again and are trying to make goth some kind of trend. One of the things that I've found, for example, is a lot of articles about the soft goth look, which is basically just a normal makeup look but with a little dark colors and stuff. Especially Jenna Ortega has been mentioned a lot in these articles. By the way, before you start, I'm not saying that Jenna Ortega cannot be goth, and any of the people that I show in this video, I'm not saying that they aren't goth. Jenna Ortega, I'm pretty sure she has never talked about goth or being interested in goth music or the subculture, so I wouldn't know if she's actually goth. But what I'm talking about is using the label goth for things that are really unrelated to the subculture, or using the word goth as if it's some kind of trendy thing. A lot of these articles are making it sound like goth is just some trend that comes and goes, especially when they use terms like the revival of goth or goth is back and that sort of titles. Meanwhile, goth has never been away. As you might know, especially if you've seen my videos before or if you're a part of the goth subculture, the goth subculture is a music-based culture with a lot of things associated to it, like the gothic fashion style, gothic literature, horror movies, political views, and also dark makeup, and much more. It started around the late 70s, and it has always been a subculture that is about being different from the norm, expressing yourself, and appreciating spooky and dark things. And this subculture, since it has started, it has never been away. It is still very much alive. There are still a lot of goth events, goth clubs, goth bands making goth music. There's a lot of goth communities, and especially now with the internet, there's a lot of goths making content and goths finding each other through the internet. For example, in my Discord server. And it's definitely true that in certain countries or in certain environments, goth is not as popular, but it is a subculture that doesn't just come and go as a trend. Goth is not just some kind of teenage phase or a makeup trend that just comes up every few years. In fact, it's a way of living for some people. It's like a huge part of some people's life. Some people are really, really into the style, the movies, the music, and are kind of living in that whole goth lifestyle. I do often get comments with people being like, I can't understand why you're still goth as an adult. Goth is just a phase and you will grow out of it once you start having a job and having children and whatever. But actually a lot of goths are adults. You can be goth and have a job. It's not like being goth consumes your entire life or something. I have a job in a hospital. I do not dress like this when I'm at work, but I still can be a goth outside of work, and I can be a goth while listening to goth music when I'm on my way to work. And actually a lot of goths do not actually grow out of being goth, since it's not just some kind of rebellious phase or something. It's also just loving the music, loving the movies and stuff, and some people don't grow out of that because it's just something that they like, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you only like for a short time or that you only like when you're a teenager. Goth is happiness for some people because it allows us to be ourselves and to connect with people who have the same interests. Goth is not about trying to follow a makeup trend or trying to look like recent celebrities like Jenna Ortega and Billie Eilish. Goth, in fact, is about being different from the norm and going against what people say is normal. So these news articles and people on YouTube and people on Instagram and just everyone who's making videos about this goth being a trend and goth is back, they're trying to make a trend of a whole subculture and with that completely misunderstanding what that whole subculture is about. Also, a lot of these titles use the word goth, and I'm just gonna explain to you something. Do with it what you want. Some people really don't care about this and some people really do, but within the goth subculture we often use the word goth for the music and the subculture. So it's like you're a goth when you listen to the music and when you're part of the subculture with all the views and the lifestyle that it has. And for the fashion and like the looks, we use the word gothic. So if you're wearing clothes that are gothic or the makeup is gothic, which is kind of something that can exist outside of the goth subculture, because someone can dress gothic but not be a goth, if you get what I mean. So a lot of these articles in their titles and in their text use the word goth for this, while goth is not about the makeup or the looks. That is just a little detail that you could argue like, yeah, it doesn't mean a lot, but I'm just saying like that is how we use those words, and using the word goth in this situation would just be kind of incorrect, especially when these articles are speaking about goth without even mentioning the music or the subculture. It's just only about looks, and that would just be kind of too simple, because that is not all there is to goth. And if you're watching this video, you could definitely argue like all of this isn't that deep, and it isn't, but some people are trying to make it deep by making up all these things that are supposedly goth just so I can put a label on it that sounds good, while they actually do not really understand what it means. And so they feel like they can be a little goth for a while until that trend is over again and people stop wearing that makeup, and then the whole goth thing is gone again. But goth is not a trend. And do not get me wrong, it would be really cool if this trend would bring new people to the subculture. Like, I literally found out about goth and goth music and everything through the fashion. Like, I was really into gothic fashion, and through that I met people, and then I became interested in the music, and that's kind of how I became goth. So I'm definitely not trying to gatekeep this subculture from anyone. Like, if you're interested in this, or you found goth through this trend and you kind of want to try it out and see if you like it, I mean, that would be great, because we're always happy when new people are starting to show interest in this subculture. And it's totally okay to kind of like dip your toes into the subculture, see if you agree with the values that we have, if you like the music, if you love everything that is goth just as much as we do. And it's also totally okay if you're only into the fashion style. I mean, obviously it's not like gothic clothes are only reserved for people who are goth and listen to the music. I mean, everyone who likes that style can definitely dress that way. That's what I used to do when I was a teenager. So if new people are coming to the subculture because of these trends, that would be a positive effect. And that would be cool and all if these trends didn't try to paint goth as something that it just completely isn't. Actually, some articles and some people who are talking about this trend do mention the goth subculture and the goth music, which I really do appreciate. But when you do not mention this, you kind of make it sound like all there is to goth is just a bit of eyeliner and a bit of darker makeup and stuff. And that is also where goth becomes kind of watered down to just being a look, a cute look, a hot look, a trendy look, acting as if a goth girl is nothing but a girl with eyeliner. And that is where you get those songs with lyrics about how hot goth girls are, and those men online that start saying that they really desperately want a goth girlfriend. And they probably think that that means that it's just a girl with a bit of a darker makeup look. So to dive a little deeper in this, I do want to show you some of the articles that I found about this, and also the things that they say in there, because they are just literally spreading misinformation or kind of enforcing stereotypes, sometimes even saying things that make me think that they're offending goths. Just as an example, I found this article on Instagram that says, the goth subculture has long faced criticism for being very white. The white face paint hasn't helped. Which is such a weird thing to say about goth, since people of color have been a part of the goth subculture. A lot of goth artists are of color. The goth subculture is about accepting everyone, no matter where they're from, no matter how they look. So it's kind of a weird thing to say this about goth, as if we're like against people of color or something, or as if everyone that is goth is a white person. And also the white face paint isn't meant in like a discriminatory way. It's actually used to kind of create that look of death, which is like a thing that goths like to do, and it's not meant to exclude people from the subculture. And also it says that we have faced criticism for being gatekeepy, which is true. I mean, there is some goth gatekeepers. I've made videos about the goth gatekeeping and how that's a thing that we want to change, but they're acting like the entire subculture is gatekeepy, but it's actually a minority of goth people who are gatekeepers. Like, the majority of goth people are actually very accepting, very welcoming to new goth people. And then they say, armed with better products, it's almost as if they're trying to say that the makeup that they are advertising with this trend, which is usually very expensive makeup from brands like Dior, as if that is better than the makeup that we use. For example, eyeliner or white foundation or contour or that kind of stuff. And they even say that this makeup trend has no allegiance to the subculture's origins, which is such a weird thing to say because you're literally borrowing this trend or like the look from this subculture. And articles like this just make it sound like goth is a bad thing and the makeup trend that exists now is making it a better thing. Well, goth has always been very accepting, very positive. It's never been about not accepting certain groups or being awful or anything that they're trying to say here. I just find it really weird that you're literally creating a trend based on a subculture and then talking crap about that subculture. Well, they probably don't even know what goth is exactly about if they are saying these kind of things. So this is an article from Hindustan Times. From Mia Goth to Jenna Ortega, everyone is obsessed with soft goth makeup. Mia Goth played a role in Frankenstein, and Jenna Ortega played a role in Wednesday and Scream and a lot of these horror movies and stuff. And scrolling down, you can see some of the pictures that they have added with this. This is what they call soft goth. So it's kind of the same as with that clean girl trend. It's like everything that has a little darkness, little weirdness to it is just gonna be called a softer or cleaner version of goth. Grabbing goth but making it less goth and still calling it goth. All of these words that make it sound like it's kind of an easier, cuter, better version of goth. Goth is back, but this time it's softer, more chic and easier to wear. And again, the fact that Jenna Ortega used some darker makeup on her eyes doesn't mean that goth is back, because goth is a whole subculture. It gives that effortlessly moody, cool girl vibe without looking like a costume. So I'm sorry, maybe I'm just too easily offended or I'm reading too much into things, but does that mean that you think goth looks like a costume? Because that is kind of a weird thing to say, don't you think? It's just a style, it's a thing that people like to wear. It doesn't mean it's a costume. Or maybe they mean like they are using it as a costume because they're like kind of cosplaying real goths. But that would also be kind of weird calling that a costume. Like they could have just said that this is a darker makeup look that kind of reminds people of a gothic look, but it's not as extreme as a gothic look. Like that would have been better, but saying looking like a costume is just like, why are you saying it that way, you know? Today the style has evolved into a modern, polished and wearable everyday look. As if goth makeup isn't wearable. It's kind of weird how they are describing this. So in another article from Deepwear, dark romance in 2025, which dark romance makes me think of those books. And I'm not sure if goth wants to be related to that whole thing, but that's probably just my mind going there. Like they probably just mean like romantic dark looks in this. How fashion's gothic revival is more than just a trend. Like, yeah, that's true. It's more than just a trend. So I do like that they're talking about this. Social media platforms such as TikTok and Instagram have fueled the rise of soft goth and dark romance, with hashtags like #gothicglam and #romanticgoth helping the trend transcend niche subcultures into the mainstream. I do not see this subculture becoming mainstream because the subculture is about the music and none of these people are speaking about goth music. No one is wearing band shirts from the goth music and promoting smaller goth bands or talking about the political views of being goth or speaking about the community or like anything that really has anything to do with goth itself. Like none of these artists or actors or anything are speaking about that. So it would be really wrong to say that this subculture is becoming mainstream because it isn't. It's just a makeup look that is a little dark that has become mainstream. But saying the niche subculture has become mainstream is just completely incorrect. Another recent article from Cinema Blend, Sydney Sweeney went full goth in a svelty black gown and choker with tousled hair. And I'll show you the picture that they have added. Yes, it is different. Yes, it is dark. And it's a really cool look. I really love it. But this is not full goth.
This isn't the soul of gothic right here. I'm sorry. I'm not seeing. You're not. No.
Yes, if you really want to, you could call this goth. Again, you don't have to look goth to be goth, and sometimes goths tone down their style a little bit, and sometimes, definitely, as a goth, you can look like this and still feel like yourself. So, yeah, you could call this goth, but I wouldn't say that Sydney Sweeney has gone full goth. Gothic fashion is meant to be kind of a little bit extreme, a little bit dark, a little bit different, a little bit weird. I mean, you've seen some of my makeup looks and other Gothic's makeup look. We love being a little weird. We often have people being really mean about our makeup looks because it's not attractive and it's not cute and it's ugly and whatever. But those people, I guess, do not understand that being goth doesn't mean that I want to be attractive. It means that I want to be a little strange, a little bit myself. It is about expressing yourself. That is what the whole goth thing is about, and that is why I would say that gothic makeup can be really extreme or can be really dark or like really creative with all these types of drawings that people can do really well. And in my opinion, I would say that if you say full goth makeup, it would have to be something a little bit extreme and a little bit weird. So another recent article from Vogue, which is very popular, so I bet a lot of people have seen this. The return of soft goth makeup. And the first sentence already, right? Much to the joy of my inner angsty teen. Why did you have to start the article this way? It just makes it sound like goth is for angsty teens, you know? And then Vogue goes on to say that goth isn't just a makeup look, it's deeply rooted subculture with its own music, fashion, and philosophy. While soft goth borrows some of the visual language, it's important to recognize the history and meaning behind the original movement. I really appreciate that. So Vogue at least has done really well in explaining that this makeup look comes from a complete subculture. And what I really do not like about this article is that at the bottom of this, they have linked some products to buy for getting this soft goth look. And I understand, like, you want to teach people how to do this look, right? But I just do not like how they are using goth to sell these products. It's kind of like that whole consumerism discussion that's going on lately with trends. They come and go. So they're making people love goth. So they're making all these people buy these really expensive products, maybe even clothes and all these things. And maybe in a few months, maybe in a few weeks, this trend will be over and all these people are gonna throw this stuff away. So all of these people are collecting, are spending a lot of money on these things while they only use it for the duration of the trend and then they're done with it. So they've not only wasted money, but they've wasted materials and they're just over consuming these things by partaking in these trends. And so I just do not like, because goth is against over-consumerism. And goth isn't about big brands at all. Like, we're actually against big brands. And again, connecting goth with Dior and connecting goth with buy all these products is just so incorrect because our subculture is against that. In my opinion, it's just kind of strange how people completely outside of the goth subculture are trying to make goth something that it isn't. And these articles are spreading misinformation about goth, saying all of these things that just either aren't true or just way over exaggerated. And they are borrowing the word goth, but meanwhile not understanding what the subculture is about and not explaining that in these articles and in their YouTube videos. I just think it's kind of weird that people outside of this whole subculture are trying to make some kind of passing trend of this. Again, with this, not trying to gatekeep anyone, not trying to say that anyone cannot be goth or anyone isn't goth. I'm just saying that goth is not a trend. So yeah, that was just my little rant about this. I'm really curious what you think. What do you think about people trying to make goth a trend? What do you think about the articles that I showed you? And have you come across this trend at all? And have you come across like articles that just say really incorrect things about goth? Definitely let me know. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing, leave a like and a comment under the video, and I really hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!